And that could almost have been my summary for the day. It's all about people. It's not about technology. It's not about can, can't. It's about human beings and making stuff work. Brilliant, brilliant presentation. Thank you, Alan. Next up, Craig O'Donnell. He's the Group Sales Director for SWIP.
Thank you very much. So SWIP, what does it stand for? So I'm going to give you the clue, being in the title. The company, when it was formed 18 years ago, was originally known as Solid Wall Insulation Products. So there's the kind of theme as to what I'm going to be talking about today. Just to go through it, we were formed 18 years ago, and there's been a lot of government-backed schemes over the years of trying to gear up to deep retrofit, insulation first, fabric first, and all the other sort of things that have been rolled out. When I first got involved in this industry, we were just dabbling with solid wall insulation at the end of SESP. We then went into Eco4, 2, 3, 4. You can see a recurring theme there. People weren't really that imaginative when they were coming up with the names of the schemes. There was a fundamental change in about 2020, which was literally just in the middle of lockdown in COVID, where we, as a solid wall insulation provider, were tasked with putting together room and roof and underfloor. So when you look at our business, we had our first annual conference last year down in the Midlands, which is where we're based. And one of the interesting facts that we put to the MD was in 2020, we had 5 employees. As we went to 2025, we've just hit our 70th employee. So the rate of growth that we've enjoyed, that we've seen over the last 5 years has been tremendous. And what's driving that is schemes like Eco4, but it's also the opportunities when you're looking at social housing and the education that we can be doing there with the products and the systems that we do. We're not a component manufacturer. We class ourselves as a system designer. And some of the terms have already been mentioned today. Rob mentioned earlier on about retrofit coordinators. We're not retrofit coordinators, but we might as well be, because we have to really offer everything into a building. David talked about ventilation. I think Rob might have mentioned it as well. We're not just a system designer for insulation. You cannot buy our systems or install them without considering ventilation. I'm not going to stand on this stage today and say, insulate everywhere. Been there, done it. Worked with the Energy Saving Trust under a retrofit scheme too many years ago to mention, where it just wasn't right in what people were doing. So in terms of what we offer for homeowners, whether that's a landlord or the actual owner themselves, we do focus on internal wall insulation. That's the main system that we put out there, because that's the main opportunity for carbon reductions that we see. But over the years, we've had to develop other systems. So as I say, 2020, room and roof went from a 2-year warranty to a 25-year warranty. We have our underfloor insulation system, and we have our loft storage system. I'm not going to spend the rest of my time talking about the products, because the products speak for themselves. What I want to talk about is what we do as an organisation to demonstrate quality, because that's the one thing that's the focus of attention at the moment, and always has been through these grant-based schemes. Contractors that we deal with, are known as grant junkies, a race to the bottom, how to do things as cost-effectively as possible. Well, to do that, the one thing that does go is the quality. And those of you that are following Parliament these days, there's an issue at the moment with solid wall insulation. I've spent 18 years at forums like this and at Westminster saying, hold on a minute, don't just talk about solid wall insulation and automatically defer to external wall insulation. There is a little known thing called internal wall insulation. I now find myself 18 years later, now that we're part of that debate, saying, well, hold on a minute, we're nothing to do with external wall insulation, leave them to it, okay? If you look at the numbers, so Eco4, been going now for 3 years, 46,000 installs under Eco4 and GBIS. Around 15,000 of those have been external wall insulation, with the rest being internal wall insulation. So for the first time ever, internal wall insulation has been installed more than external wall. To give you the sort of delivery that we do, we're about 95% of that market. So when we've got government ministers talking about there being high rates of failure with solid wall insulation, that encompasses internal wall insulation and us as well. So what I'm going to actually talk about is our quality and compliance, because that is the key to getting successful retrofit projects up and running. The products are the products. We have competitors. Go talk to them. If you want to use them, use them. But what I suggest for the industry, and we're now talking to our competitors about this, is contractor schemes and assurances that give social housing landlords, as well as the energy companies that have to foot the bill, but more importantly, the customers that are living in these properties, the confidence that what's been done is not just a sticking plaster and is not just something that's been done because it's the cheapest product that can be done. Our approved contractor scheme, it's not as complex as this kind of chart shows, but it gives you the idea of what we do. Every single installer that wants to install any of our systems has to be carded and approved. They have to attend a training course, which covers all of the bits that you can see there. We do a first-time inspection. Only once they've had that first inspection do they get a full card. Our ongoing technical monitoring, we committed at the end of last year to raise that from a 25% on-site technical monitoring to 100%. Because what's the only way that you can ensure that contractors are installing things correctly? Monitor it 100%. It's as simple as that. Now, we are not a multi-million pound, well, we're not a multi-billion pound business, okay? But, there's two of us that own the business, but we've invested in the last 6 months alone over £1 million in technical monitoring. We spend more on technical support than we do on salespeople. Up until the middle of last year, we'd never employed a salesperson because Grant will allow customers to find you if you've got the right product. We've now got 3 business development managers that we've employed, but we've only got them to look at the social housing schemes, not at Eco4. We spend so much time and effort on all of the things that you can see around that wheel. 6 team members doing nothing but warranties. I'm not talking about just a click of a button when an installer sends through a warranty. To get our 25-year warranty, you have to submit a suite of photos that can range from 30 to 50 photos. Okay, we're not just looking at one elevation and just going, yeah, that seems okay. They seem to have done a good job. We're looking at every aspect of it. We're just at the final stages of upgrading our platform, which has cost us another £250,000 to allow these 6 full-time members to be interacting on a regular basis with every single installer. When you then look at the guarantee providers, we are just a system designer. So what happens if we're not here anymore? Well, we work with the 3 guarantee providers that you can see up there, and they offer a 25-year warranty. I don't want to say insurance-backed warranty, because if anyone deals with the IAA, they hate that term because they do the warranties. But to be able to get our system over the line, we have to give it a tick. And it's for me, it's our tick that's the most important. But by giving it the SWIP Sure tick, these 3 key companies here will then give you as an installer or as a homeowner your 25-year insurance-backed warranty. We're not doing anything that's too different to what could have been done before. The reason that we're doing this now is that the industry is demanding it, and the industry needs it to maintain the confidence that needs to be put there. So when you look at our ongoing technical monitoring, 100% technical monitoring, to give you the sort of numbers, that's around 2,000 installs a month. So to go from 25% to 100% is a big investment on our behalf. The way that we do that is 4 internal technical monitoring managers. They're doing live video calls between 8 and 5. So, we were a simple systems designer for insulation. Now I feel like I'm like some sort of cloud-based guru with the amount of infrastructure that we've had to put in. Because when you do a video call, you don't just do it, you've got to keep it for 25 years. So the infrastructure that we've had to put in behind that has been phenomenal. And the efforts that the team have been able to do over the last 6 months to get that is amazing. We then have the bodies on the ground, the 4 regional technical managers that will be going and visiting each site, okay? And that's covering every measure that we do, not just the internal wall insulation side of it. But it's all based and it's all gearing towards these warranties, okay? Anyone can write a warranty. Somebody that works in insurance told me, well, a warranty is written, Craig, for one reason, and the reason is for the insurance company to get out of it. The wording is in there so that they can trip you up, so that they can just go, oh, you've not used that correct screw, you've not installed that correctly. If we go back, we are looking at everything. We are literally looking at every aspect of a job. So if there's a failure, on any system that we've provided, whose fault is it? And standing here today as SWIP, that's us. It's not the installer, because we're now leading the march and saying quality has to start, and somebody has to put their neck and their head above the parapet and say, we'll take responsibility for that. We train them, we monitor them, and we sell to them. So why not take the responsibility for it? So when you look at the government's response at the moment to the solid wall insulation scandal, as they like to call it, it's been industry-led by the IAA and TrustMark. Interesting fact, we've not had one single failure on any of our systems. So where TrustMark are talking about a 90% failure rate on solid wall insulation, the IAA have done a 20% deep dive on their EWI jobs, and they are seeing failures. It's not insulation falling off the wall. It could be just something as simple as we've not done a handover pack. IWI, they started doing their 20% and they stopped because they're just not finding any failures. The reason I say they're not finding any failures is that we're already 95% of that market. What we're trying to gear up to now are the social housing landlords and providers that are out there, because I do think there is a disconnection between the sort of Eco4 work with BASE guidance and the social housing landlords, where we are being approached by them saying, look, we're in trouble here. We haven't used a system-led approach. What is it you can do for us that will allow us to have the certainty that we're doing it right? And I think that's pretty much what we're trying to do. You know, the system's not really focused on, but know your system, but it's knowing what's behind that system. And I think that, for us as a system designer, is the key to getting retrofit done right. And he stood up, so I'm going to disappear. Okay? Thank you very much.